No, in the beginning, the writers, wrote the character, and then we embellished it as we went along and developed it over the weeks.
For years, Don Knotts was known as the man who could make anyone laugh. Now, at the age of 71, which is decades after his death, his daughter is finally pulling back the curtain to reveal the pain, silence, and emotional truths that the cameras never captured. These awful truths might just be what you were expecting to hear, but what if it isn't? Stick around to find out. Who was Don Knotts? Don Knotts was a well-known American actor and comedian, best known for playing nervous, high-strung character roles that made people laugh. He was born on the 21st of July in the year 1924 in Morgantown, West Virginia. He became a popular name and figure in the United States of America, thanks to his role as Deputy Barney Fife on The Andy Griffith Show, which aired from the early years of the 1960s. Don Knotts was reported to be known for his slim build, expressions, and ability to make a simple scene funny without trying too hard. He was also reported to be especially good at playing characters who seemed overwhelmed or scared, but in a way that made people laugh, not pity them. His unique style of comedy is said to have made him stand out among other actors of his time. Even though he mainly played lighthearted roles, Don Knotts took his craft seriously and worked hard behind the scenes. Reports say he wasn't the type to be involved in scandals or drama, and most fans knew him as a hard-working man who just wanted to make people smile. By the time he passed away in February of the year 2006, Don Knotts had become one of his generation's most recognized comedy actors. His work is said to be still shown on television today, and many people remember him as a one-of-a-kind performer who brought joy to homes across America. Don Knotts' early life. Don Knotts, as earlier stated, was born on the 21st of July in the year 1924 in Morgantown, West Virginia. He was the youngest child among the 4 sons that were born to a working-class family, which was struggling through the Great Depression. His father, by name William Jesse Knotts, was reported to have once been a successful farmer, but lost nearly everything before Don was born. Later, he reportedly worked as a border house operator, but reports have it that he had schizophrenia and became both emotionally distant and physically threatening. His mother, Elsie Luzetta Knotts, carried most of the burden, working hard to keep the family together while raising 4 boys under challenging conditions. Don's childhood was also said to have been marked by fear and instability. His father's reported declining mental health made home life tense and unpredictable. On the other hand, being small and shy, Don reportedly naturally became nervous and avoided conflict. When Don was reportedly about 13 years old, his father died, thereby making his mother a widow and leaving the children without a father figure. From then on, Don was said to have slept on a cot in the kitchen of their small home, which most people saw as a sign of their cramped and modest life. But even in that troubled environment, Don found something extraordinary. He could make people laugh. As a boy, he reportedly began performing puppet shows and impersonating most of his neighbors around his home and classmates in school. According to reports, he created a dummy named Danny and began entertaining at church socials, school events, and local gatherings. It became his escape and a way to deal with the chaos around him. Despite his evident talent, Don reportedly struggled with low confidence and profound anxiety. Sources from back then say that he was withdrawn and nervous off stage, but from the moment he went on stage, he came to life. They also say that he participated in school plays and speech competitions at Morgantown High School, where teachers reported noticing his unique stage presence. After graduating from high school in the year 1942, he enrolled at West Virginia University, but reports have it that he didn't stay long. World War II had begun at the time, and little did he know that his life was about to take another turn. Records show that Don enlisted in the United States Army and served in the Special Services Branch, an entertainment unit that performed for troops across the Pacific. Because of the unit he belonged to, he had to travel a lot. He traveled to islands like New Caledonia and the Philippines, acting in skits and doing stand-up comedy just to boost soldier morale. What made him different from others was that he didn't just perform. No, he also wrote most of his material. His military service not only earned him medals like the Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal and the World War II Victory Medal, but also gave him confidence in his comedic instincts. After the war, Don is said to have returned to West Virginia University, where he eventually completed his degree in education with a minor in speech in the year 1948. Though there were reports that he had planned to become a teacher, his desire to perform professionally never disappeared. That same year, he moved to New York City and began earnestly chasing his dream. He struggled at first because his early attempts to land roles in radio were met with all-round rejection. His first visit to New York was as a teenager, and it had already ended in disappointment. But even with the rejections, he remembered that success didn't come overnight. These setbacks only helped deepen his resolve. By the early 1950s, he had begun appearing on television, slowly gaining recognition for his nervous energy and comedic timing. These traits were shaped by a brutal past in his life that never quite let go of him. These early experiences, from poverty to trauma, emotional isolation, and persistence, are said to be what became the foundation of Don Knotts' career. His characters may have made millions laugh, but they were deeply rooted in something personal, a boy who had to survive by making others smile. Don Knotts' rise to fame. After graduating from West Virginia University in the year 1948, Don Knotts set out for New York City to pursue his dream, an entertainment career. It wasn't an easy path, which he has attested to in interviews, because television was still new then and competition was tough. Don had a unique style and way of doing things, but it didn't immediately open doors for him. He started by taking small acting jobs, voice work, and radio appearances, which were enough for him to live modestly and stay focused on building his skills. One of his first real breakthroughs came in the year 1953, when he landed a regular role on the television show called Search for Tomorrow, a soap opera where he played the role of a nervous young man. The role was not so different from the ones he became famous for. In the year 1956, Don joined The Steve Allen Show, and on the show he became part of a comedy segment known as The Man on the Street. This role also gave him the nationwide exposure he needed to become a star. It helped him build a reputation for his nervous, stammering delivery that made his audiences laugh without fail. His performances caught the attention of another actor, Andy Griffith, who was preparing for his sitcom. In 1960, Don was cast as Deputy Barney Fife on The Andy Griffith Show. This role changed his life, as he liked to say during interviews. According to reports, his appearance on the show was initially intended to be a one-episode character, but Barney Fife became a central part of the show. Thanks to Don's performance and his portrayal of the overly confident but deeply insecure deputy sheriff, he won the hearts of viewers and critics alike. Don appeared on the show for 5 seasons from the year 1960 to the year 1965. During that time, he won 5 Emmy Awards for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series. This achievement placed him among the most awarded television actors of that era. His chemistry with Andy Griffith and the show's balance of humor and heart made it a classic. After leaving the Andy Griffith Show, Don shifted toward film. In the late years of the 1960s and 70s, he starred in a string of family-friendly comedies, which Universal Pictures, including The Ghost and Mr. Chicken, The Reluctant Astronaut, and The Shakiest Gun in the West, produced. These movies helped reinforce his image as the lovable, bumbling everyman who always found himself in ridiculous situations. In the late years of the 1970s, Don's career entered a new chapter when he joined the cast of Three's Company as Mr. Furley, the eccentric, flashy landlord with a loud wardrobe and even louder personality. His performance introduced him to a new generation of fans and kept him in the spotlight well into the 1980s. By the 1980s, Don Knotts was no longer just a TV actor. He was an icon. They say he had a face people trusted and a voice that could make the most serious lines sound funny, and he became one of America's most beloved comedy stars. But as his fame grew, few people knew of the personal struggles he continued to carry behind the scenes, and this was something his daughter would later talk about in detail. So stick around to find out. Don Knotts' shelf of achievements. Don Knotts built a career that went on for over 5 decades, and during that time he earned both critical acclaim and a long-lasting admiration from fans across different generations. While he often played the nervous, bumbling roles on screen, his achievements were not shaky behind the scenes. His most recognized work came from The Andy Griffith Show, in which he played the role of Deputy Barney Fife. From 1960 to 1965, Don's performance was praised by audiences and critics alike. He won 5 Emmy Awards for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series. This award was given to him for almost every season he was on the show, making him one of the most decorated comedic actors in television history. But his success didn't stop there, because Don transitioned smoothly into movies and became a key figure in family-friendly comedy films that Universal Pictures produced. Films like The Ghost and Mr. Chicken from the year 1966, The Reluctant Astronaut from the year 1967, The Shakiest Gun in the West from the year 1968, and The Incredible Mr. Limpet from the year 1964, all became favorites, especially among younger audiences. His roles in these films may not have won him major film awards, but they were enough to keep him relevant and consistently in demand through the late years of the 1960s and 70s. In 1979, Don found renewed success when he joined the hit sitcom Three's Company as Mr. Furley, the quirky landlord. His colorful outfits, exaggerated facial expressions, and reactions were reported to have given the show a new kind of energy. Although he didn't win any major awards for this role, it is said that it helped introduce him to a younger generation and reinforced his ability to stay relevant in changing times. Throughout his career, Don was also recognized in other ways, because in the year 2000, he was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which is located at 7083 Hollywood Boulevard. In his hometown of Morgantown, West Virginia, he was later declared a Don Knotts Boulevard and unveiled a statue of him in the year 2016, 10 years after his death. Beyond formal awards, Don's most outstanding achievement is how widely he was loved by all critics and fans alike. His comedy never relied on vulgarity or shock value like some. Instead, it was natural, and he made people laugh through timing, character, and body language, which is hard to teach and harder to sustain over decades. In the end, his trophy shelf may have been impressive, like that of other comedy stars of his era and now, but his real legacy to this day is found in the homes of millions of viewers who watched and remembered him night after night, feeling like they knew him personally. Love, divorce, and the woman who gave him a daughter. Don Knotts may have been a master of comedy on screen, but his real life was far more complicated regarding matters and dealings of love. He was married 3 times during his lifespan, and each marriage ended in divorce. Though there are reports that he kept much of his personal life out of the public eye, especially the emotional ups and downs behind the scenes, the emotional ups and downs have been reported to be very real. His first marriage was to a lady named Catherine Metz, whom he married in the year 1947. The couple had 1 child together, a daughter named Karen Knotts, who later grew up to become a comedian, writer, and actress in her own right. According to records, their marriage lasted nearly 20 years, but ended in divorce in 1964, just as Don was at the height of his fame on The Andy Griffith Show. The pressures of his rising career and struggles reportedly strained the relationship. In the year 1974, Don got married to another lady named Lauralee Chuchna, who was a college student studying psychology. Their relationship was public for a short time, but faced serious challenges. According to reports, Lauralee later revealed in interviews that Don's severe hypochondria and anxiety made their marriage difficult. This was because he was constantly worried about his health, and he was often convinced he had serious illnesses even when doctors reassured him otherwise. These fears were reported to have led him into isolation and emotional distance, which eventually caused the marriage to fall apart. They got divorced in the year 1983. Don's third and final marriage was to a lady named Frances Yarborough, who was a former actress and his companion for a long time. They married in 2002, just 4 years before Don's demise. Unlike the one before, this relationship was quiet and mostly stayed out of the media. Francis remained by his side until he passed away in the year 2006. Despite his charm on screen, those closest to him and who knew him have reported that Don had difficulty opening up emotionally. His childhood trauma, ongoing anxiety, and constant health fears were reported to always follow him into each relationship. Records show that he cared deeply for his daughter, Karen, and remained connected to her throughout his life. She later publicly spoke about how difficult it was for her to grow up in a home where emotional availability was rare. So while his fans saw a man who could make the world laugh with a nervous glance or a trembling voice, his romantic life was filled with quiet struggles, emotional walls, and personal battles that fame couldn't fix. Who is Karen Knotts? Karen Knotts is the only child of Don Knotts and his first wife, Catherine K. Metz. Karen Knotts was born on the 2nd of April in the year 1954, which was at the peak of her father's rise in the entertainment world as an actor. Her early years were shaped by the unique tension of growing up with a world-famous father, beloved by millions, yet emotionally reserved at home. Karen's childhood in Glendale, California, wasn't typical, as reported by those close to the family. This was because while her father made people laugh across America, she often got to see and experience the more serious side of him. Don Knotts, who has been reported to be a deeply anxious man, and Karen have said in interviews that he could sometimes be distant and consumed by his work, forgetting everything and everyone around him. Despite this, she was in awe of him, describing him as incredibly loving in his quiet way in interviews. In the year 2021, during an interview with Fox News Digital, Karen revealed, "My dad was very emotionally available to me. He would come to me when upset or sad, not my mother. He confided in me. I guess I was kind of like his therapist," she continued. "He had a lot of pain and loneliness buried deep inside him. People assumed he was always happy and goofy like Barney Fife, but that wasn't the full picture." Records indicate that Don initially discouraged her from going into acting, most likely because he understood how hard the industry could be. He eventually supported her passion for acting, knowing she took after him. Karen shared that he fully embraced her choice once he saw her perform on stage. "He was proud of me. He saw that I had the passion for it," she recalled. Karen also studied drama at the University of Southern California's School of Cinematic Arts. Even though she is Don Knotts' daughter, she got no easy passes. She was reported to have worked her way through the acting scene, performed in local theater productions, and even spent time as a librarian while working as a stand-up comedian on the side. She later became known for directing short films and doing comedy tours. One of her most cherished memories was when she finally performed alongside her father on stage. She said, "He gave me one of the best compliments of my life." He reportedly told someone, "Karen is a real actor, she's got it. I'll never forget that." Karen eventually found her voice through a show titled Tied Up in Knots, which she debuted in the year 2008. The performance is known to have combined storytelling, character impressions, ventriloquism, and heartfelt memories. It reportedly gave audiences a behind-the-scenes look into the man behind Barney Fife and Mr. Furley. She performed the show nationwide and even took it to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. The show was her way of sharing stories beyond what fans saw on screen. "People would come up to me and say, 'I didn't know that about your dad,'" she said. "They only knew the characters." In the year 2021, she expanded her storytelling by going into a memoir with the same name, Tied Up in Knots: My Dad and Me. The book revealed more about her father's inner world, his struggles with insecurity and depression, and how those struggles affected their relationship. She included reflections from friends, co-stars, and even comedians like Jim Carrey and Tim Conway Jr., who viewed Don as a legend but also as a complex human being. She wrote in the book that Dad's comedy was always clean and grounded in truth, but he carried a lot of pain. Performing was his way of working through it. It was his medicine. Karen was said to have been by Don Knotts' side when he passed away in February of the year 2006. She recalls that her father tried to make her laugh even in his final moments. He made a funny expression right before he passed, like he was delivering one last joke. It was so him. I had to step out of the room because I started laughing. She later added, "He didn't want me to be sad. That was his way of saying goodbye. It was beautiful and funny at the same time, which is so very dad." In her early 70s, Karen has continued to perform and keep her father's memory alive. She has reportedly mentioned that her work isn't just about honoring his legacy, but about telling the whole story, even the complicated parts. She has now become a speaker and performer who bridges the gap between fans who only knew Don Knotts on the screen and those who now see him through his daughter's eyes. In an interview, Karen said, "For a long time, I felt invisible because people only wanted to talk about him. I finally feel like I've found my voice by sharing his." Don Knotts' daughter finally opens up in the awful truth at 71. For decades, the world saw Don Knotts as the man who could make anyone laugh, and he did make everyone laugh. His characters, like Barney Fife on The Andy Griffith Show, Mr. Furley on Three's Company, were unforgettable, and they were a master of physical comedy and nervous charm. But according to his daughter, Karen Knotts, the truth behind the spotlight was far from lighthearted, because behind the goofy smiles and iconic roles he played, he was a man battling anxiety, emotional trauma, and the weight of his perfectionism. Karen, now 71 years of age, has begun to speak more openly in recent interviews, and her memoir titled Tied Up in Knots, about the emotional toll her father's internal struggles had on their family. Most fans adored his awkward charm, but she saw a man who was often deeply withdrawn from his surroundings, overwhelmed by his fears, and afraid. "He had a lot of fear," she said in a sit-down interview. "It never showed on stage, but he fought battles people couldn't see at home." She revealed how Don suffered from panic attacks, especially before performances. Despite being a comedic genius, he constantly worried he wasn't good enough. Karen recalled how he would often retreat in silence after giving his all to an audience or a camera. "He didn't have anything left for us," she said. "He gave it all away at work." Karen also spoke about how her father's struggles made him emotionally unavailable to her and her mother during her childhood. She described the feeling as being ignored or distanced, even though she knew he loved her. She added that growing up, she felt more like a background character in his story than a priority because he gave his all to work. "There were moments I needed a dad," she said, "but the audience needed him more." Adding to the emotional complexity was the fact that Don's childhood left him with deep scars, since he was born during the Great Depression and grew up with a father who was emotionally unstable and sometimes violent. That trauma was carried into his adulthood and shaped his view of relationships and parenthood. Karen said, "He didn't know how to express love like most dads did. He showed it in bizarre but funny ways, like a compliment here, a proud smile there." Karen also explained how she, as a child, sometimes took on the role of caretaker. "He would come to me with his sadness. Even as a little girl, I could feel his pain, and I tried to be the one to cheer him up. That's a heavy burden for a child." The most heartbreaking part of her story came at the end of his life because, as Don lay on his deathbed in the year 2006, Karen was told not to overwhelm him emotionally. She tried to keep the moment calm, and with that, she didn't fully express her love or say goodbye the way she wanted. "I wish I'd just cried and held him," she admitted, "but I didn't. I kept it all inside, and that still hurts." So, the awful truth wasn't about a scandal or disgrace as most might have imagined or hoped for. It was about the emotional cost of living that came with loving and eventually losing a man who brought joy to the world but rarely found peace himself. Karen's honesty, decades later at the age of 71, gives us the complete picture of the man behind the laughter across thousands of homes in the United States, and one who was broken in places yet still deeply human. Public reaction to her reveal. After Karen Knotts finally opened up about the emotional truths of growing up with her famous father, the response she got from the public was both heartfelt and eye-opening. For decades, fans who had admired Don Knotts were reported to be deeply moved by Karen's honesty. Her revelations didn't tarnish her father's image. Instead, they deepened the public's understanding of the man behind the comedy. His longtime fans expressed gratitude for the behind-the-scenes look at Don's personal life. Many were reported to have commented on how her words gave them a new appreciation for the challenges he faced when he was off camera. On forums, social media, and in reaction to interviews, people praised Karen for her bravery, with one fan writing, "It takes a lot of strength to talk about pain that's been buried for so long. I respect her even more for doing it with grace." Mental health advocates also weighed in by saying Karen's openness shed light on the pressures entertainers face and how emotional struggles can affect families, even those that seem perfect from the outside. One article described her reveal as a necessary reminder that comedians often carry the heaviest burdens. Media outlets highlighted the key parts of her memoir and interviews, which emphasized that her story was not one of bitterness, but forgiveness, understanding, and healing. Some viewers admitted that Karen's honesty helped them reflect on their relationships with emotionally distant parents. And despite the emotional weight of her reveal, many still praised her for continuing to celebrate Don Knotts' legacy while telling her truth. "She didn't drag his name through the mud like some would have done," one fan posted. "She gave us the real story. Somehow, I love him even more now." Others echoed similar sentiments, calling her courage beautiful and healing, especially for those who had grown up idolizing Knotts but never imagined the pain he might have hidden behind the camera. Karen's words added depth to a man many only knew through laughter. She didn't destroy his image by opening up, she expanded it. She showed the world that vulnerability and greatness can exist side by side, and that sometimes honoring someone means telling the whole truth, even when it hurts. In the end, Karen's reveal didn't spark outrage or scandal. Instead, it created a connection, reminding people that even icons struggle, that the people who make us laugh the hardest might be the ones hurting the most, and that it's okay to talk about those things even years later. Her honesty helped fans see Don not just as a legendary comic actor, but as a complex, imperfect, and deeply loved human being. For many, that only made his legacy shine brighter. What do you think about this story? Please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to share this video, like it, and subscribe to this channel. Before you go, click on the video displayed on your screen.